season. I think we had a really strong preseason of training. Our guys really put the work in on the track in the stadium. I think our technical skills are where they need to be right now. We have a few weeks to really tighten down everything before we head up to some conference duels, Big 12 duels between South Dakota State and North Dakota State. So we're focused on South Dakota State right now. I think we have a pretty strong lineup when we returned 3 All-Americans, and I think all 3 of our All-Americans that have returned have a great chance to contend for titles. They're going to have to be better than they were last year, and they're going to have to continue to improve throughout the year. But I think having those 3 All-Americans leading the team is strong. I think the guys are going to connect to the energy and effort that those guys bring to the mat every single match, and if they follow suit, I think we're going to be a pretty good team.
Getting Earl back, I'm sure a huge lift when you thought he would be going on and moving on, but what does that do, I guess, to the room just to have him back?
Well, a huge lift. I mean, normally we don't get those kind of surprises. Earl being a 2-time All-American, and with the physical abilities that he has, the potential that he has to really contend for a national championship is strong for us. I think he solidifies our lineup. He is a 4th-year wrestler in our program. He hasn't redshirted at all. So getting him back was very good for us. We think we have some good backups. I think Nathan Boston will challenge Earl for that spot, so that's strong for our program. We had Marcus Simmons, who was also a 33-pounder, decided to go down to 125. So hopefully he makes it comfortably enough to compete at a high level. So I think it just bolsters our lineup with getting Earl back in there, and it adds to our depth and adds to the strength of our team.
Earl's going to be out for the first few matches, right? Because he's coming back.
He is. I think one of the sanctions that they put on him through the NCAA was he had to miss the first 2 competitions, and so he'll be out for the first 2 dual meets.
Is Nate going to get that spot then for those first 2? Do you think?
Right now, it looks like Nate. I think Nate's had a great preseason. I like what he's done in the room over the last month, and he's ready to compete. So I think we shouldn't miss too much having Earl out of the lineup.
Is there a possibility of him going to 25 after Paul's back in the lineup?
Who's that?
Larson or Boston?
Well, Boston's going to stay at 33. I think Boston's going to contend for that spot. He's going to fight as hard as he can to take that spot from Earl, which is good for us. But Marcus Simmons has made the decision to push down to 125. He's following his descent plan right now, and so I think he should make it comfortably. But Kyle Larson, he's not giving that spot up to anybody easily. He's a national qualifier. He's a senior. He's got great potential, and I think he's going to go out there and really show what he's all about this year. So I do think we have some depth at that weight as well. We also have John Marmaleo, who transferred in from Purdue, who's a junior that's going to contend as well. So it adds to our depth and adds to the strength of our program.
One senior we haven't talked about yet is Gabe Moreno. He's coming back from his second torn labrum surgery. How's he look so far?
Well, I think he looks pretty good. I don't think he's 100% confident right now with his health. He's done everything we asked him to do in preseason. He's wrestling live every day. He's doing everything we ask him to do. He just has to lock into the mental side of dealing with this injury. I think staying injury-free for him and for our program is very important for our success. But he'll do everything and anything we ask him to do. We just have to get him there mentally so he knows that he's capable of competing with this injury.
Why did he move down to 41?
Well, he always was a smaller 149-pounder, but the biggest reason is because of shoulder surgery. He had no opportunity to lift weights through the summer. He couldn't get bigger. He couldn't get stronger because he had to recover from that injury. And his weight, he came in probably about 151, 149. And so, with that being said, we'd rather him lean out and lean down. He's has a great nutrition plan as opposed to trying to, bulk him up under everything else that he has to do to get that shoulder healthy, to try to make him bigger and stronger and then throw him out there against bigger and stronger guys. We thought that would be, he'd be more susceptible to injury at the upper weight.
Who else can contend at 41?
Well, John Meeks is a senior this year, so I feel real good about, if Gabe's not able to go these first few matches, that John Meeks is ready to go, and I think John is ready to have a strong senior year. I've been saying that for a few years, and I think my expectations for John has never changed. I think when you watch him in the wrestling room, he has all the ability in the world, all the potential in the world to do real well when we get out in competition. Sometimes we tighten up a little bit, but I think this year he's doing some different things with the sports psychologist and some other things that are going to hopefully aid him to finish matches the way he has to finish them, and so we don't think we'll miss a whole lot. As far as if Gabe has to set out the first couple matches, I think John is ready to go, and John wants to contend for that spot as well, and so it adds, like I said, depth to our lineup, and it's a good thing for us.
Given the way Pat Downey came on last year and finished the year, what are kind of expectations, I guess, for him, after the off season and coming into this year?
Well,
What kind of vision for him?
I don't know if you follow Pat Downey on Twitter. If you do, you shouldn't. but his expectations are our expectations. He wants to be a national champion. He believes he can be a national champion. He's competed with the best guys, not only in the country, but the best guys in the country at the senior level. So he's capable. He's more than capable. You've seen him at the NCAA championship, at the Big 12 championship, after having 6 matches, compete as well as anybody on the team. So he's a true competitor. I think having a preseason that he didn't have last year, I think being able to wrestle for the first semester and getting all the competitions that he's going to get in, and plus going down to 184 to his natural weight gives him all the opportunity to capture his goals. And I know Pat's has one goal, and that's to be the very best in the country. And so that's going to be a strong weight class. He's got a lot of competitors, a lot of competition that he's going to have to go through. But if he takes it one match at a time, wrestles the way he's capable of wrestling, gets to the legs more than he likes to, I think he's gonna be one of the guys that I said can contend. I think Pat can contend for the title, but he's got to prove it every single day and in competition.
Leland went on a tear at the end of last season, won Big 12 championship, was the only unranked wrestler to get to the semifinals of the NCAAs. What has he got to do to keep that consistent level?
Well, I think it's what you said at the end. It's about being consistent with Leland. The only reason he wasn't ranked, I don't really look at Leland as an unranked wrestler getting to the semifinals, because realistically he should have been in the top 8, but he lost a couple matches that he shouldn't have lost, and there lies that consistency. So I think if he can tighten down a couple areas of focus that he has to do a better job of defending certain areas. He has to explode to his attacks, and he has to explode off the bottom a little bit better to really be who he's capable of being. But Lee's another kid that I really think is a contender. I think he knocked off the number 2 guy in the first round last year at the NCAA championship, and I think we didn't finish that tournament the way we wanted to finish it. But I know where his mind is at, and I know the kind of preseason that he's had, and he's ready to roll. He's ready to lead, and we have great expectations for Leland to lead this team.
Dane was a 220-pounder in high school, and you guys have him at 65 now?
Well, it wasn't a good 220. It wasn't a good 220, but I think Dane would admit to that. And I just think if you want to look at a kid's growth and maturity over the last few years, you just have to look no further than Dane Pastano. His freshman year, he struggled. I think he struggled in the classroom. We struggled socially a little bit. We struggled on the mat. And all those things finally came together for him. And he's probably the hardest worker, if not the hardest worker in our program right now. He leads by example. He had a terrific year last year, and I think he was undersized for 84. I really think Dane's a 74-pounder, and he'll be a 74-pounder next year after Leland leaves. But if he gets down to 165 and he's able to compete the way he's been competing over the last year, I think that says a lot about where we're at and what kind of team we possibly can have. But he's got some work to do still. We're not quite there at 165, and so we'll see how he feels and how he looks once he gets down there. But from 220 to 165 kind of speaks for itself as far as his work ethic and the sacrifice that he's making to be his very best.
You brought in your best recruiting class so far, number 3 recruiting class in the nation according to Intermat. Will any of the freshmen that you brought in see time this year?
Well, I really think after the Fargo tournament, people realized that number 3 might have been a little bit low. But at the same time, it's one thing to do it at the high school level. It's another thing to do it at the college level. I like the energy and intensity that these young men have brought into our program. I don't believe we'll have to wrestle any of them. I think we're at a point in our program where that redshirt year is important. We think you're going to be better after 2 years in our program than 1 year in our program. Obviously, if somebody goes down or a couple guys go down, we have to call that next best guy up. But we don't anticipate that right now. But we still want them under the mindset that they could be the guy, because it definitely could happen. You've seen it in Ohio State's national champion, true freshman national champion last year. Things happen. You adjust to what you have, and you do what you have to do to make your team strong and to give yourself the best chance to perform at the NCAA tournament.
By
You guys-
too low, do you mean like you should have been ranked number two or number one, or like number 4, number 5?
No, I mean number 1 and number 2.
Okay. Yeah.
They're just based on what they did in Fargo.
Yeah.
Just based on what they did in Fargo.
Just clarifying that.
You guys have some recruiting momentum that might not have been there a couple years ago. What can you attribute that to?
Well, I really challenged my coaching staff to become the number 1 recruiting staff in the country. And I think Trent Paulson and Angel Escobedo and Travis Paulson have really worked their tails off to try to develop relationships to get the very best kids in. We recognized, after our first few years that the teams that are winning got the best kids. We came in here thinking that I thought I was just a great coach. I can coach anybody to be national champions and coach any team to be a national championship team. But I found out pretty soon that you get the better athletes, it makes your job a lot easier. And so we've challenged these guys to really work hard to get the best athletes they could. I think Kylan Gadsden's victory over Schneider, the way he won, he showcased great skill in dominating fashion. And I think the guys that we have put in the finals since I've been here have dominated that competition. So we've sold that at a higher level. And also we got some guys that are quality young men in our program, men of character, and kids want to connect to that.
So it goes along with the redshirt freshmen a little bit too. Who stood out there so far, and how about those kids?
Well, I could mention them all, but I don't want to leave any out. But I think that whole group has brought a energy level and excitement and intensity into our wrestling room that was important. They're competitors, they're hard workers, and they just love the sport. There's a passion there that you have to have in order to be successful in a program like Iowa State or any major program. And so I could point to a number of the kids, but all in all, I'm just very happy with the kids we brought in. Those freshmen, their expectations to perform here at Iowa State are at the highest level. They have not taken a back seat to anyone in our room. They haven't taken a back seat in their training, and their goals are as high as any kids in the country. So I really like what they've brought to the program. I'm looking forward to what our next recruiting class is going to bring to the program as well.
There's been some talk of moving the NCAA schedule back so the tournament ends up being in April. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I like the adjustment. I like the talks of the adjustment. Obviously, we hate going head-to-head with March Madness. I think that detracts from what we're doing at the NCAA Championship, even though the NCAA Championship is well viewed and shown every round on ESPN. And so we really think that we'd get more attention if we were outside of that outside that March date. But wrestling's a tough sport. For our athletes to have to control their weight, for them to have to train for 2 semesters, when you're talking all the academic pressure that they're under, as well as making weight every single week, and it just becomes a long season. But that's what we're used to doing. So for me, it's what I'm used to doing. But obviously, if I'm looking at the student athlete well-being, I'd lean more towards the 1 semester sport and moving it into April.